My name is Sheena with the Way of Namaste, and today I wanted to come on and share a prayer and a Celtic Cross tarot reading while we are collectively navigating the frequencies of Gene Key 56. This is the shadow of distraction. This is the gift of enrichment. And this is the city or the divine essence of intoxication. So if it feels in alignment, I invite you to soften your gaze or close down your eyes and come into this sacred pause, this moment of contemplation. If it feels in alignment, I invite you to bring your attention inward towards your breath and just noticing the quality of your breath, allowing you to send any loving awareness to any place in your body where your breath may feel stagnant or the air may feel stuck. And just allowing that stagnancy to move, pushing that energy through. And maybe taking the biggest breath that you've taken all day, breathing in through the nose, feeling the chest expanding, maybe holding for a beat, a conscious moment of gratitude. And then when we exhale, either through the nose or through the mouth, whichever your body feels most in alignment with, maybe just setting the intention that something will soften, some tension will be released with every exhale. And just doing this a couple times in your own rhythm, deeply inhaling, sending loving awareness to any place where there is stagnancy. And then just inviting a softening with every exhale. And before we go into our reading, I'd love to invite us into a unified field connecting body, mind, and spirit. So if you haven't already softened your gaze or closed down your eyes, I invite you to do that now. And on this next inhale, I invite you to send that energy all the way into your heart, bringing this loving awareness directly to that heart chakra. And just beginning to feel your breath moving in and out of your chest like waves upon a sacred shore. And on this next breath, I invite you to send that energy from your heart to every soul reading these words across time and space. And just feeling your heart connecting with theirs, creating this web of unconditional love. And on your next inhale, I invite you to bring your awareness to your third eye, your ajna chakra, that space between your brow. Just seeing, sensing, feeling, imagining the light of your inner vision awakening here. And as we activate this inner seeing, may we honor the wisdom of every soul on this path. And now beginning to feel this connection, soul to soul, seeing one another clearly. And next, we bring this energy now from the body, from the mind, up to the spirit, up to our oversoul, And let's lovingly send this next breath into the crown of your head. And here, I invite you to see or sense or perceive your oversoul. This vast field of memory, of essence and guidance. And once you begin to feel that connection, this oversoul, I invite you to sense the oversoul of our collective here. And just feeling, sensing, perceiving, or imagining these threads of light, all weaving together from beyond the veil. Here, we remember that we are each unique, and yet we are not separate from one another. We are, in fact, one. On this next deep breath in, pulling that energy all the way up from the base of the pelvic floor, I invite you to connect to your source self by dropping into the still point within. And just feeling the timeless flame of your origin, the source that created you. This is your divine self. This is the purest expression of your being. Let's take a moment in silence while we allow it to speak to you, allowing it to remember you. Inviting in any images, any sensations in the body, any energy in motion, emotions, maybe even the waft of peace moving through. And on this next breath, I invite you to connect to your center self, bringing all of this energy into your center, your belly, your womb space, your sacred seat of power. And I invite you here to feel the pulse of life anchoring within you. You are not reaching outward. You are rooting inward. Feeling yourself connected to the chair, the seat, the earth beneath you. This is your home, your compass, your altar. And from this field of unified presence, mind, body, spirit connection, we speak as one, calling in our highest and greatest intentions. We align with the highest and greatest good, and we choose the highest and greatest choice for ourselves, for each other, and for all living beings across all time, all dimensions, and all space. And we root this prayer in wholeness and sovereignty. And so it is, and so it ever shall be. Breathing in another deep breath. So this week we're navigating Gene Key 56. This is the shadow of distraction, the gift of enrichment, and the city or the divine expression of intoxication. So when we think about this shadow of distraction, this is when we're actually numbing ourselves, distracting ourselves from truly being in the present moment. All of us completely here now. No mindless chatter or scrolling or finding any ways that capture our attention from the now. Consuming rather than creating. The collective is always going to reflect the shadow in this holographic universe back to us. So right now we see a lot of distraction. We see a lot of opportunities on how we can bypass our feelings. We can tune into the cravings of the ego, the cravings of the mind, the cravings of the body. And it takes a special kind of discipline to practice Wu Wei, to practice the idea, the art of doing nothing. Intentionally choosing to do nothing, but be here now. Just like you have chosen in this moment. This is the gift of enrichment, where we fill the space with things of our choosing. We choose the pause. We choose to respond versus react. We choose to allow an emotion, energy, and motion to have its way with us for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 90 seconds. Sometimes it might feel longer. It might feel like a tidal wave. Right now, we're all learning to be big wave surfers. How can we ride the wave instead of getting catapulted by it, taken under the water? We become selective with our energy, our right use of our power. We stop being distracted by the things that take us away from our soul's mission, from our purpose. And we find enriching practices and rituals instead. Practices that allow us to connect more with the now. Connecting with the earth, with fire, with air, with water, with spirit. The divine expression of intoxication. This is when we become ecstatic, enraptured by the present moment. In a moment of meditation, when we are in complete stillness, in complete solitude, we might find ourselves hysterically cracking up, laughing at the simplicity of it all, at the ridiculousness of it all. How often we mistake this life as something far more complicated than it really is. This simulation, this zeros and ones, these repeating formulas, these patterns, these structures of belief, they keep crumbling one by one because they're behind veils of illusion. And as we awaken, we become intoxicated by the madness of it all. And there's a lightness that comes over us, a levity. This is the divine essence of enlightenment. To become intoxicated fully by the present moment. Simply a word can have you erupt for 30 minutes. These are some of the stories that they talk about the sages. By being so fully alive, they would take a drop of wine to become drunk. And this is our invitation this week, is to become drunk off of life, off of the here and now. So let's dive into our Celtic Cross Tarot reading. If this is reaching you and you have this gene key in your chart, then maybe you feel this a little bit deeper. No matter what time you find this reading, it's finding you exactly when you need these messages. And for anything that you don't need, that anything that doesn't resonate, throw it away, leave it behind. This is the gift of levity. It's a gift of free choice, free will. Right use of power is leaving behind anything that does not serve you. So we begin with the heart of the matter, and it's the Four of Cups. So you're in a moment of emotional pause. Perhaps what once excited or inspired you now feels muted or unsatisfying. This is the shadow of distraction, where the noise of life blurs the signal of your soul. The fourth cup, the one offered from Spirit, is waiting for you to notice it, not as another option, but as an invitation inward. So what would happen if you stopped searching for meaning outside of yourself and turned inward to the sacred stillness? Our challenge, or as I like to say, our opportunity this week, is the Emperor. So the Emperor, as your challenge, speaks to structure, authority, and control. So perhaps that urge to figure it all out or impose a rigid container on a fluid process. This could also reflect a dynamic with masculine energy, whether it's internal or external, that resists the enchantment of the unknown. In Gene Key 56, this is the intoxication of the city, the divine ecstasy of living, not something easily ruled or contained. So our challenge this week is, can you loosen your grip and can you allow inspiration to lead? Sometimes we will become so inspired by life. And sometimes we just simply need to embody it, to digest the experience. So that boredom becomes fertile, rich soil for inspiration later. So don't run from the boredom. Where we're coming from in the past is the Eight of Wands. So you've recently experienced a rush, maybe movement or messages or energy shifts or downloads. Things may have felt fast and fiery. This surge might have catapulted you into a phase of creative overload or scattered focus. In the context of Gene Key 56, this might be when enrichment started. Beautiful, but overwhelming if you weren't grounded. So what did you learn from that last moment of velocity? What we're conscious of is the Knight of Wands. So at a conscious level, you might be craving momentum right now, or expression and passion. So the Knight of Wands seeks to feel alive. But sometimes this Knight can chase intensity over intimacy. So, Gene Key 56 also reminds us that chasing sensation can quickly become distraction if it isn't rooted in soul. So, can your fire be fueled by devotion and not just desire? All of us have an addict that lives inside of us that chases the peak moments. But can we learn to witness that addict instead of actually moving beyond it or moving towards it? Can we see that to actually indulge in every single thing that the addict wants for us wouldn't be satisfying, wouldn't be satiating? It's just the rush, just the excitement of chasing that high. So can you choose instead to be fueled by devotion, by consistency? So what's coming up for us in the future is the Eight of Pentacles. So here we see a shift from external spark to inner steady mastery. So the Eight of Pentacles invites you to devote yourself to your craft, to your practice, to your sacred repetition that brings depth for you. So enrichment deepens when you give your gifts form. So what are you here to tend to, or to shape, or to perfect? And not for external validation, but for the sheer pleasure of offering it. So how are you feeling called to express your own unique beauty right now? It doesn't need other people to cheer you on. It doesn't need the external applause. It just makes you feel good. So what we're unconscious of is the Six of Swords. So beneath the surface, a quiet crossing is underway. You are moving from choppy emotional waters toward healing and clarity. You may be carrying others, or you may be carried yourself, but something is definitely shifting, perhaps imperceptibly. So trust this transition. The distractions of the past no longer hold the same spell. You are headed toward something more true. So the Querent, this is you. How do you feel about this? It's the Knight of Pentacles. So this is the energy that you're embodying. It's steady, it's methodical, and it's patient. So you're doing the work, even if the work right now doesn't seem very flashy. While the mind might crave movement, which was reflected in the Knight of Swords, your soul is anchoring in presence. So this knight listens to the land. He doesn't rush forward. And that's how true intoxication with life begins. It comes through presence, not pursuit. So once we stop chasing, once we stop needing external outer stimuli, we can become intoxicated through the moment. So our environment is the chariot. You are surrounded by a force of alignment through contrast. The chariot doesn't move through brute force alone. It moves when the opposing energies are harnessed into harmony. So in Gene Key 56, this could be reflected as the balance between distraction and enrichment, between discipline and surrender, between control and trust. So who or what is offering you this mirror of movement right now? So the chariot invites in this moment of surrender through divine will. So we actively choose to let go of something and to find the balance between what was distracting and what was intoxicating. And how can we actually then be moved through life, enriched by the experience without becoming overstimulated or underwhelmed? So the hopes and fears is the Knight of Swords. So part of you fears being too reactive, too sharp, too swift, but you also long for clarity and directness. So the Knight of Swords wants to cut through the noise, yet in Gene Key 56, the mind can sometimes amplify the noise. So the medicine here is in discernment. So just remember, not all your ideas need action. Let your sword be for truth, not defense. Our imagination is a powerful tool. But everything that we see in our imagination does not have to be acted upon. Dreaming is a powerful part of our human experience. But everything that we dream doesn't need to be experienced in our waking life. And so as we live in this place of duality, we can think about something, but we don't have to act upon something. And the evolution of our species is dropping from our head to our heart, where things used to have to make intellectual, logical sense. And now we can feel our way through. What feels good? Does this feel like truth for me? And can I honor how I feel without needing to fact check it? And this enriches our spirit when we actually trust in our intuition. And when we lighten up, when we practice enlightenment, when we build the muscle of enlightenment through ecstasy, through joy, we become intoxicated by the present moment. And we learn different magical, mystical ways to change, to shift the energy from wherever we are. It might be through dance, through mudras, through breath work, through fire gazing, through putting our prayers into our water and then ingesting them, through yoga, the practice of rinsing out our body, releasing the samskaras, through stretching, and actively setting our intention. So this gift this week of enrichment invites us into the right use of our power, of our energy. How do we choose to spend our time while we're here? How can we be so enriched by this experience that we can create more than we consume, so that we can leave something behind for our children's children? I'm sending you so much love. Namaste.